Hello everyone, this is topic 12A, lymphatic system of the human anatomy class. I will be delivering 3 lectures on lymphatic system and this is the first lecture on this one. The lymphatic system is the body's defense system. That means it provides immunity or protection to the body. This system is very similar to the cardiovascular or circulatory system. The two main similarities are, just like in cardiovascular system, there is a fluid, that is blood, that is circulating. Here also there is a fluid that is circulating and the name of that fluid is lymph. And secondly, just like the cardiovascular system, the lymphatic system also has vessels. We call them lymphatic vessels. However, the differences are that unlike cardiovascular system, there is no heart, no pumping organ in the lymphatic system. And unlike the cardiovascular system where blood flows in two directions, towards the heart and away from the heart, in lymphatic system, lymph always flows unidirectionally, that means in one direction towards the heart. So the components of lymphatic system include the fluid, which is lymph, the lymphatic vessels in which the lymph flows, and the lymphoid tissues and organs. Some examples of tissues are the tonsils, the lymphoid nodules, while the organs include the lymph nodes distributed throughout the body, spleen, thymus, etc. Function is immunity, defense. Now we are going to discuss the functions of the lymphatic system in details. The most important function is immunity or defense. The microorganisms and any other foreign substances, they are usually filtered out from the body by the lymph nodes. The lymph nodes are the battlegrounds in the body where actual battle occurs between the soldiers in your body, that means the white blood cells and the germs. And these foreign substances are also removed from the blood by spleen. So both lymph nodes and spleen are part of your lymphatic system. And these soldiers, the lymphocytes and the other white blood cells, are usually circulated or transported by the lymphatic system. This is the main function. The second function of lymphatic system is maintaining the fluid balance or returning the fluid back to the cardiovascular system. It is estimated that about 30 liters of fluid passes from the blood capillaries into the ECF or the interstitial fluid, but only 27 liter comes back to the capillaries. So that means there is a loss of 3 liters of fluid. So where does this 3 liters go? And if this keeps on happening, that means then the level of fluid in the blood vessels would continually go down. So this 3 liter of fluid actually stays in the ECF and then it returns to the blood capillaries with the help of the lymphatic system. It is the lymph that returns this fluid back to blood. The third function of lymphatic system is absorption of fat from the GI tract. So the lymphatic system helps in absorbing fat from the small intestine lining. There are special lymphatic vessels called lacteals which are present in this lining and they absorb the fat from the small intestine. When fats get inside the lymphatic vessel, it mixes with lymph and it forms a milky bodily fluid which is known as chyle. So chyle means lymph plus fat. And then lacteals would carry chyle into larger lymphatic vessels and that would eventually lead to a small chamber called the cisterna chyli. The cisterna chyli would open into a bigger lymphatic vessel called the thoracic lymphatic duct. And the thoracic duct would eventually carry the chyle into the circulatory system in the left subclavian vein. This diagram shows the distribution of the lymph nodes and the major lymphatic vessels. I want you to notice the location of the cisterna chyli, which is the chamber that receives the lymph from the small intestine, and this is the fat. The lymph is mixed with the fat and then it eventually drains into the thoracic duct and the thoracic duct enters into the left subclavian vein, which is part of the cardiovascular system. Lymph. What is lymph? Lymph is a clear fluid. It is very similar to blood plasma. However, it has a lower solute concentration. Where is lymph coming from? What is exactly forming the lymph? Lymph gets its fluid from two sources. First, blood plasma, and second, the fluid from the cells. And it is not only the fluids but also solutes that come out. So there are ions, nutrients, hormones, enzymes, all of this get into lymph, and the lymph would eventually return to the cardiovascular system via veins. Lymphatic vessels comprise a system of vessels that are always carrying lymph in one direction towards the heart. There is no pump or a heart-like structure. So lymph moves by three means or three mechanisms. First is the milking action of the skeletal muscle. That means the skeletal muscle surrounding the lymphatic vessels, when they contract, they produce a pressure on the lymphatic vessels, and that helps the lymph to move. The second one is the slow rhythmic contraction of the muscle wall itself. That means the wall of the lymphatic vessels, which are formed by smooth muscles, and they are contracting very slowly. It's called peristalsis. The third one is there are pressure changes inside the thoracic cavity as a person breathes in and breathes out, and these pressure changes also help lymph to move. There are two main types of lymphatic vessels. The small ones are called lymphatic capillaries, but the large ones are known as lymphatic ducts and trunks. This figure shows the interaction or connection between cardiovascular and lymphatic system. The top part of the figure shows the heart, and from the heart you can see the red blood vessels taking the oxygenated blood to different parts of your body. At the bottom of the figure you see how the arteries and the arterioles have broken down into capillary network, and then the veins are shown in blue. This is deoxygenated blood being taken back to the heart by the venous system. Now in between these you see the lymphatic system shown in green, where the blood capillaries have made their network. Here there is loose connective tissue around the capillaries, and blood plasma oozes out as things are moving out of the blood capillaries. So the tissue fluid now becomes lymph, and this lymph enters the lymphatic system and it gets into the lymphatic capillaries. As lymph is moving inside the lymphatic vessels, there are valves that prevent backflow of lymph, and it gets into the lymph, slowly moves from the lymphatic capillaries into bigger lymphatic vessels. You see lymph nodes every now and then it goes into the lymphatic ducts and trunks, and this is how lymph is returned to the circulatory system. Lymphatic capillaries are the small lymphatic vessels. They are similar to blood capillaries because they also have very thin walls. They are highly permeable. However, they have mini valves. They are really small valves which are flap-like. So when fluid or lymph gets inside the lymphatic capillaries, the pressure inside the lymphatic capillaries increases, and this higher pressure closes the mini valves, and so lymph cannot flow backwards. Lymphatic capillaries are found all over the body, the exceptions being only those regions where there are no blood vessels. Why do you think there are no lymphatic capillaries where there are no blood vessels, such as your cartilage or the cornea or the epidermis? The nervous system, although it has blood vessels, it also lacks lymphatic capillaries. Could you think of a reason why there are no lymphatic vessels in the nervous system also? This figure shows an overlap of the blood capillaries and the lymphatic capillaries shown in green. The blood capillaries are as usual in red and blue. This figure shows the mini valves of the lymphatic capillaries. This figure shows how the valves prevent the backflow of lymph. The lymphatic collecting vessels are the bigger lymphatic vessels that collect lymph from the lymphatic capillaries. They would carry lymph to and away from the lymph nodes. There are two main lymphatic collecting vessels. Those are the right lymphatic duct and the thoracic duct. This figure shows the lymphatic capillaries and the lymphatic collecting vessels. The distribution of lymphatic capillaries and vessels is shown in this figure. This is a recap of blood composition. Lymphatic tissue. This tissue is made up of different types of cells, the important ones being, first one, lymphocytes. There are different types of lymphocytes in the body, such as T lymphocytes, B lymphocytes, the natural killer cells. The second type of cells are the macrophages. You all know macrophages are phagocytes, which eat up substances that are not required. The third type of cells are dendritic cells. These are cells which are very similar to macrophages. They have spiny appearance. The fourth one is reticular cells, which produce fine fibers. So it's kind of like that the fibers which are produced by the reticular cells, they are like spider webs, and the lymphocytes and other soldiers, they attach to these fibers, and these fiber network, just like spider web traps bugs, this fiber network traps germs, microorganisms, and then the white blood cells can attack those germs and take care of it. Lymph nodes, the main function is to filter lymph before it is returned to the blood, and there are two types of cells in the lymph nodes, the macrophages and the lymphocytes. This figure shows the distribution of lymph nodes in your body. This slide describes the anatomy of a lymph node. A lymph node is about 1 inch long, shape is like kidney beans. The outer covering is a fibrous capsule, and there are projections of this fibrous capsule inside. Those are known as trabeculae. The lymph node is divided into two parts. The outer part is called the cortex, and it is made up of lymphocytes which are present in clusters, and the cluster is known as a follicle, while the inner or the central core of the lymph node is the medulla. The medulla contains some empty spaces called the medullary sinus, and there are some rope-like structures in this medullary sinus which is known as the medullary cord. There are macrophages present in the medulla. This is a diagrammatic representation of a lymph node. You can see the kidney shape. Look at the outer covering, the capsule, the cortex, the follicles with lymphocytes inside the cortex, the medullary sinus, and the medullary cord in the medulla. Now, if you look at the lymph node, there are some vessels that are carrying lymph into the lymph node. Those are known as the afferent lymphatic vessels, while lymph would exit out of the lymph node through the efferent lymphatic vessels. There are always more lymphatic vessels bringing the lymph into the lymph node. That means there are more afferent lymphatic vessels than efferent, and the reason is to stagnate the lymph inside. That means the lymph is forced to stop or pause inside the lymph node for some time, and that gives the time to your soldiers, to your lymphocytes, and to your macrophages to fight the infections, to eliminate the germs. This is a list of the major lymphoid organs with their location. There are 5 organs given here: the tonsils, which are present in the pharyngeal region; the thymus, which is also an endocrine gland, it's present on top of your heart in the thorax; the spleen, it curves around the left side of the stomach; the Peyer's patches, which you can see inside the small intestine; and the appendix, which is present in the colon. This figure shows the various lymphoid organs. Spleen is located on the left side in the abdominal pelvic cavity, and main functions of spleen include filtering of blood. It is mainly responsible for taking care of the old and worn out blood cells, particularly the red blood cells. Also acts as a blood reservoir. Anatomy of the spleen. Just like your lymph node, the spleen also has an outer covering made up of the fibrous capsule, which is throwing projections inside, called the trabeculae. There are two parts of the spleen, the outer part and the inner part. Instead of calling them cortex and medulla, we are calling here the inner part as white pulp because it is mainly made up of lymphocytes, and the outer part is the red pulp, which is associated with red blood cells and macrophages. The thymus gland, which is an endocrine gland, is also part of the lymphatic system. This gland has 2 lobes and it is located overlying the heart. The function of the thymus gland is at the highest level or at peak levels during childhood, and the gland starts shrinking in size after 60 years. So as a person ages, the gland gets smaller and smaller. The thymus also has an outer cortex and an inner medulla. The outer cortex has a very high concentration of lymphocytes and some macrophages, while the inner medulla contains fewer number of lymphocytes, and it has a special structure called the thymic or Hassel's corpuscles, and their function is still unknown. The main functions of thymus gland is to produce 2 hormones, the thymosin and thymopoietin hormone, about which you've already learned in the endocrine system, which help in the maturation of T lymphocytes. This figure shows the location of the thymus gland overlying the heart and also a histological section. The tonsils are present in the pharyngeal region. These are small masses of lymphoid tissue. Their main function is to trap and eliminate microorganisms and foreign materials. The term tonsillitis means inflammation of the tonsils, and this is caused by an overgrowth of or infection by bacteria. Tonsils exist in three groups. There are total 5 in number. The first group is known as the palatine tonsils. These are paired structures located at the posterior end of the oral cavity. The second group is the pharyngeal tonsils or the adenoids. This is one single structure located on the posterior wall of the nasopharynx. And the third group is the lingual tonsils, which are again paired structures, and these are present on the posterior surface of the tongue. Peyer's patches are lymphoid tissues which are present in the inner lining of the small intestine. They look like tonsils, and their main function is to trap and eliminate microorganisms in the small intestine. MALT means mucosa associated lymphatic tissue, and this includes Peyer's patches, tonsils, and any accumulation of lymphoid tissue which is present in the mucosal layer, and they function as soldiers to protect the respiratory and the digestive tracts. This is a summary of the functions of lymphatic system. There are three main disorders of the lymphatic system. The first one is lymphadenopathy, which is the swelling of the lymph nodes in response to an infection such as a bacterial or virus infection. The second one is inflammation and infection of the tonsils, which is tonsillitis. The third one is lymphedema, which means accumulation of lymph. This is blockage of lymphatic drainage from a limb. So what happens is that that particular limb, for example the leg, becomes swollen because of so much accumulation of the lymph cannot go back, and it looks like or resembles an elephant stump. So it's also known as elephantiasis or filariasis.